Hello and welcome to Cole Red Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Cole Red. I have two very special guests with me here today. On my screen, you can see Big Papa Drock, and then on audio, we've got Krops. Now, both of you guys, we're the top 3 finishers in the Hell Hades free-to-play challenge this year. So this is a star-studded podium here. This is a bronze, silver, and gold here on the podium, and it's the first time I'm having each of you on the channel. So welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining me. How you doing?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us. Appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Krop, good to have you. How are you doing, Krop?
Very well, very well. Thank you guys for having me here. I'm very proud that I can join your stream, and yeah, let's go.
All right. All right. So like I said, we're the top 3 finishers here in accounts. What we're going to do today is take a look at each account, kind of have a discussion about the challenge and our experiences with the challenge. Why don't we start with you, Drock? Because I think coming into this, you were the biggest question mark, right? You are an end game whale, kraken. You focus on a lot of different things. You'd never done free to play before. Is that correct? Like this was your first free to play experience?
Yeah, first ever. I've never done anything like this. Learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, but yeah, definitely the first time I've ever played an account free to play for any period of time. So it was definitely a learning experience and super different from what I normally do.
And on top of everything else, you were the captain of your team. So you had the team running responsibilities as well.
Yeah, that was also really interesting. That kind of dynamic of trying to motivate people and keep people invested, because I mean, as you know, it's an immense amount of time to play raid free to play, and then also to be in a competition where you're trying to eke out every single smallest amount of points. So that means lots of sleepless nights, and over the course of 3 months. So definitely was a balancing act, but I had a lot of fun for sure.
Well, let's see if we can take a look here at the leaderboard. So Team Drock, you finished in 3rd place with 42,000 total points, right on the dot, 42,000. And you were the big point getter for your team at over 11,400 points there. Absolutely fantastic total. Let's take a look now for you, Krop. It was a very different experience. Obviously, you were coming in as a newer content creator. You told me you've been only playing the game about a year, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And, for only a year, but you've been free to play the whole time?
Yes, from the beginning.
All right. So Krop here on Team Scratch pulled in 13,215 points, the top point getter out of all of the content creators in the entire competition. So congrats on that. Absolutely fantastic job. Coming in, you've got all these big names here, right? We've got YST, we've got Big Papa Drock, we've got Scratch, MTG Jedi, we've got, Deadwood. Obviously, we've got HH and Saphira. Did you think you were going to be competitive right from the start? Did you have that quiet confidence, or was this something you discovered as the competition progressed?
Yeah, I think I had some confidence because I tried a little bit free to play for some time. Was experimenting a lot. Before this challenge, I was running my own challenge.
Right.
Also free to play, so I knew what I could achieve in this period of time.
Yeah, you should tell Drock about that. Drock, Krop told me this story early on, but Krop was literally running a challenge right before this started. And Krop, what was your own personal challenge that you were running?
Yeah, so the story is a little bit longer because I started with my main account a year ago. I was just playing with casually and see what is game about, and I just the new fusion pop out, and let's try this fusion, and I at some point finished this fusion, and just guess who was the star for prize for this fusion. It was
I don't know.
Nut.
It was nut. Okay, it was nut.
Yes,
Nice.
so nut. Yes, whatever how you pronounce that, but
First fusion, newt,
yeah. So this champ just straight away passed me from the early game to, I don't know, all the hard stages of the dungeons. So Doom Tower was so easy. So I decided that I had to quit. And after that, I decided to start my new challenge, I call it Gold Chickens, and I decided on this challenge to feed all my legendary champions because I don't want to use them.
So he literally did this challenge
Wow.
right before this challenge.
You cheater. You cheated. No.
So that I had this confidence, right? Because I already was kind of doing similar thing, right? But here we got this opportunity to use login champions like Rotalos, right? And use fusion champions like Ancora or Armans, right? In my previous challenge, I probably for sure will feed them as chickens. But here, yeah, the rules will be different.
That's hilarious. So no wonder you knew what you were doing. I was like the blind trying to lead the blind. I'm the captain of the team, but I've never done free to play, and I'm like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing or how to do this stuff. So okay, that explains a lot. Now I understand. Now I know why I lost. Okay, that was why. That's the only reason.
I do have to say, Drock, I think that your performance in this competition was incredibly impressive. Like I've been playing free to play for 2.5 years. All my accounts are free to play. I wasn't sure I would be competing at the end here. And knowing that you had never done free to play before, like you put in a lot of hours. I have to say, probably, we were talking about this, before recording, but we all put in a ton of hours. And that's the thing that you can't get away from here. If you're going to compete at this level, if you're going to do in 90 days what might take an account 6 months or 9 months or 12 months to do, you have to put in a lot of hours. On average, how many hours a day do you think you put into the free-to-play account?
Oh God, I'm not even kidding when I tell you that I was playing this at like almost the entirety of the day. Or checking it or coming back to it. So, I mean, I was not sleeping a lot during the last 3 months. I would say I was putting a solid like 12 to 14 hours into the raid free to play. I mean, I basically let my main just sit on the wayside. I didn't push live arena at all. I fell way down on the live arena on my main account because all of my time was dedicated to the free to play, checking arena, checking the shop, checking whatever, coming back, waiting for energy to regain or to regenerate. And I was not going to bed until 3, 4, sometimes 5. Heck, some nights even 6 a.m., even while working a full-time job. So I was like, I never thought that I would actually remotely come close to the top. But once I was in the competition and I saw that I was doing well, I was like, you know what? I think I actually have a chance to maybe win. And I'm such a competitive person. I said, I'm going to give everything I got,
Yeah.
And I'm proud of what I accomplished. Even though I came in third, I'm really proud because like I said, I've never done anything like this before. I had so many mistakes on the free to play stuff of like, oh my God, if I just knew how this worked, I could have done a little bit better. But
sure,
I'm really proud of what I accomplished. And you guys were great. Like we talked about this before we started. Like every time I tried to push, then you guys pushed and you got further ahead. And I was like, all right, it's time to just admit that I'm going to be finishing in third place here.
And honestly, it is an amazing finish. We look at, unfortunately, you're not on the community leaderboards, but if we show the community
now.
Oh, you are? Okay.
I am now. So you can look in the community leaderboards. So Saf, there was an issue where for some reason my stuff wasn't showing up in the community leaderboards, but I am now. So you can see where I finished on most of that stuff.
Okay, but you're not on the main like full top 50 leaderboard, I don't think.
Oh, well.
Yeah, because
that's a bummer.
I think in the overall there are 1,300 competitors. And I think overall, I finished 5th, and I think you were right behind me in either 6th or 7th, and Krop finished 3rd overall. And yeah, I mean, the two guys at the top, Panda and JS Foot, they're going to get their moment with HH. Incredible performances here. We've got to acknowledge, 16,000 total points here. Finishing Doom Tower hard, I think they both did. Crazy performances on Hydra. We had 100 million one key there as well. So just really impressive performances.
Yeah, how is my question. Like I feel like all three of us did extremely well in this competition, and then I saw their scores and I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Like how? Like I'm really curious to see what they did. Like I'm excited for us to see how each of us did and like what we did on our accounts and how they differ, but I'm also really curious, like what were they doing? Like how in the world did they put up those kind of points?
But we were just talking about the number of hours that we spent in game, and I think Krop, we were talking earlier. You've made the HH free to play account your main account now, right? This is the one account that you're playing currently.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, and so what would you say in terms of the investment in hours? You know, just playing one account, because I know Drock, you're playing your main, I was playing my main. You know, did you feel as much pressure to be on all the time, or were you kind of just in a normal game, you know, playing progression?
Oh, this is a kind of type of work that I'm doing. So I'm most of the time my laptop, so the game was open all the time.
Yeah.
So I could, do my stuff and look what's going on there. Just push there, push that there, train some chickens. Yeah.
So continuous.
So
yeah.
just
Yeah. What I
question for you
usual.
guys.
Yeah.
Did
Go,
you
Drock.
guys use RSL Helper at all on this challenge or not?
Me not. I'm not using RS helper. Yeah, I just prefer do it my manually, just filling the game.
Okay, because that was also me. I did not use RSL Helper on the challenge, and that was so different from my main account where I use RSL Helper all the time.
For me personally, I didn't use RSL Helper at all for the first month, but I was still trying to play my main account, and so the only thing I used RSL Helper for was to have 2 Plarium Play windows open. So every day I would just open both instances, and then I didn't use any of the auto clickers or auto battle. I mean, I used the auto battles in game, but I didn't use the auto clicker at all. And I think for me personally, I've never really used RSL Helper that much. I've gotten more into it recently on my main account, but it felt to a certain extent like that's not the experience most new players are going to have. But by the time it progressed, I was like, this is not an experience new players could reproduce. Like a new player couldn't come in and get, you know, stage 8 hard mode dragon done in 85 days. Like nobody's going to do that unless they know the game.
So true. That was I think one of the most interesting parts for me is that, you know, my only time starting another account that I played was 3.5 years ago, right? Or starting like my main account. And I think about all the things I didn't know about the game then, and I was never free to play, obviously, but it was incredible to see the amount of knowledge that I have accumulated through 3.5 years of playing Raid and how that translated surprisingly to just starting a new account. Even though I hadn't done free to play before, there was so much that I already knew about the mechanics of the game that made it like, okay, like I could figure this out. Like I can figure out what champion works here. I can do the research. I can figure out how it works together. And that was really cool to see because I just remember when I first started Raid, how utterly clueless I was as to how the game worked because the game has so many different layers and mechanics and they have only increased in the last, you know, several years from when I started. But that was super cool to see. I really enjoyed that.
I think that's a really interesting point, and I agree to a certain extent. I haven't played as long as you, but I'm closing in on 3 years. I'm past the 2.5 year mark. But I think my experience has been I've played a lot of accounts from the beginning. In fact, I've done, you know, free to play content my whole time as a content creator. But so I'm curious, Krop, about your experience. Now you've run a few accounts, you know, from the beginning. How do you feel about your knowledge, like of, I guess, the champion pool as like an entirety? Like, do you feel like you know as many champions? Do you feel like you're as comfortable with endgame, or is it that like this is the area that you know really well, or is it a mix? Like, I'm curious about your feeling about your overall knowledge base.
Because both previous accounts was pretty short, like 3-4 months. So I just scratched the surface, I would say, of the early game, and to go to the mid game. So I know how to quickly progress from early to mid game. But what's going on later, I'm not sure if I can say more about that, because the Hydra runs, for example, that we did, that was my personal record, is 55 millions in the Hydra. So
Gotcha.
I first time did that. So I'm not Hydra expert. I was just learning, doing this challenge to how to deal with Hydra, with different rotations, how the head's working. Yeah, so I had to do my homework.
That's awesome.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I had no clue.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting, Drock, I've been talking to you more, each of you, you know, just the last few days as the contest was winding down. But Krop and I were talking, and every day he would check in and he'd ask me, "Are you going to get more points today?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get more points today. And he's like, all right, well, I got, you know, and so every time I would check the score, I'd get a little closer and a little closer, and then he'd get some more points. And I'm like, I just don't know if I can catch you. And he said to me, he's like, well, I've been watching your channel, you know, so it's like you've created this monster. He's like, I've been watching your content, and that's what's helping me here. And I'm like, oh, great. So I feel like I should take all my videos down for a second because he's doing his research on my channel. But that was actually hilarious. it was the best compliment there is, you know, is to have somebody say, hey, I've used your content and it's valuable, and let me show it off like I'm crushing. And to be fair, also, Krop, like, you made a lot of decisions that I didn't think about. Like, I actually watched, we were talking about the whatchamacallit, where you train, where do you train champions? In the sparring pit.
Sparring pit, yeah.
Yeah, Krop went and unlocked the whole sparring pit right away. And that's one of the reasons why he was able to get so many 6-star champions. And I have to admit, that didn't really occur to me. I thought about it right at the beginning and then just didn't do it.
Maybe not right away. It was right after my second Masteries buy.
Right.
Then I unlocked this training pit, right? I got in the ring. Yeah.
Okay, I'm really surprised by that. I wonder if anyone else even did that. That's kind of shocking.
Yeah. And I mean, 18 6-stars. I ended up with 9. He ended up with 18. He doubled me. So, you know, a lot of points there, a lot of value. Obviously, when we're talking about, you know, Faction Wars progress, right? Krops got the most stars. Well, if you've got the most 6-star champions, you're going to do very well in Faction Wars. So that helped, you know, and then obviously you also have the most Great Hall development here. So, you know, a lot of these things are going hand in hand. When you have a big roster to pull from, then you've got more flexibility. Obviously, then gear becomes an issue, and we talked about that a little bit. But why don't we actually do this? All right, let's get off the leaderboards, and let's actually take a look around the accounts. So why don't we start with you, Drock, and let's just jump on your account, and you can kind of show it off a little bit, and we'll ask you some questions about it. Okay, so Drock, here we are on his screen. Unfortunately, I am not the technical wizard some of the other content creators are, so we've got a little bit of a de-resed Drock right now, but you still look good, man. You still look good.
Appreciate it. All
right, so here we are on Drock's account. Now, first of all, why don't you show us your roster? Why don't we talk about rosters first?
Well, so obviously the competition's ended, so I started investing in Legos, but I wasn't using either of these, of course, during the competition. Right. But this is my roster. I ended up with, I want to say 14 6-stars before the competition ended. I think I've got 16 or something now, or whatever with these, or 15. But you can see here, my main go-tos are all up here. I got the Cold Heart, obviously the Kale, the Duck was huge for me. Vogoth was huge for me. You know, the biggest thing is that I really didn't get a ton of as many epic pulls early on as I wanted. Like, I was a little bit behind, and then towards the end of the competition, I started getting some good epics like Allure. Uragrim can come in handy here, but I got a lot of epics that I would call are not really the kind of ones you want to invest in for long-term stuff. Like, I just pulled a Cardinal, for example. That would have been nice, but a lot of these are epics that I really wouldn't use normally, other than trying to progress Faction Wars. And that was the hardest thing, because I got ahead of Krop at one point, or I tied him, I think, or I was right there with him when we both had 500 stars, and I was like, okay, surely he can't push much higher than this. And then the next day he was at like 520, and I was like, all right, great, awesome. You know what I mean? Like,
another 6-star.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, another one. So the ones I used most, without a doubt, were like Vogoth, Duck, Mordecai. That was my starter champion, was Mordecai.
Yeah, me too.
And they were by far the most influential on my account. And like, by the time I got Deacon, it was towards the end of the competition, and I was like, I don't know if I want to invest in him, because I've already got Duck that does similar things other than the turn meter decrease.
Right.
You know, and he has the decrease attack, obviously. So it was tricky trying to figure out where to put my 6-stars, like to the point where I even put it into Reliquary Tender, because Reliquary, you know, was the one like champion that actually could cleanse and give some sort of actual heal beyond just like Vogoth healing when he's hit. So
right.
I 6-starred her, which was an interesting decision, because I would normally never, 6-star a rare champion over an epic champion. But she was, I think, the best investment at that time, and she did help me progress a little bit. But yeah, that's the roster you can see here.
You did have a Uragrim But one of the things that I found is I did 6-star a few rares. We'll look at my account in a little bit, but I did focus a little bit on rares only because I didn't have any epic tomes. Like I used up all of my epic tomes. And so certain epics might be valuable on a roster, but if you can't get them booked out, they weren't adding solutions, for the challenge specifically. And so I think, for instance, like I chose not to take up like Phoenix. I didn't take Phoenix to 6 stars. And I was like, because like he does a thing that I could add to my roster, but I didn't have the books for him. And you want him hitting as hard as possible and all those things, so. And I can imagine, Deacon, you've got Allure. Allure you can use without books, actually. But Deacon, Duck, Uragrim, all of these champions, you want to have them really booked. Even Ilfrig here, if you're going to use them in Arena or something like that, you want them booked if you can get them there. Ikatun. Let me ask you this. Out of all of the champions that you did, in fact, use, what was the most surprising for you? Because like you said, you typically haven't done like free-to-play content. Was there a champion you found like an epic where you're like, holy cow, this epic's amazing?
This is an interesting question because I've used in my journey on my main account, even though I'm a spender, I've actually used all these epics at one point in time. So I was pretty aware of what they could do. Like I know Vogoth is a great healer because I used to use him in my Bommel team.
Right.
I had 3 Vogoths and I used 3 Vogoths. You know what I mean? I had that 3 Vogoth strategy. And I know Duck is good from having used him previously and having seen his kit. Like I know he's good. I would say the epic that most surprised me and that I genuinely thought when I pulled her that she really was not that great, but she ended up being actually a lot better than I thought, at least in one area of the game, was Juliana.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that Juliana could actually do pretty decent damage on Clan Boss and could be a good Clan Boss champion with her ability to, strip buffs, land an HP burn, and throw up poisons. And so that, and I know she got buffed at some point, but so she actually surprised me because I had never used Juliana before on my main account, like never ever built her, never touched her. Everybody else here I've used. Achak and Mordecai used to have a 2-man spider team. Vogoth used them. Duck, Allure, Deacon, all of these like ones that are towards the top I have used before, but not her. So yeah, she was the real surprise for me of like, oh, okay, like she's actually she has some utility here. She has some use.
And there are a few other players in the challenge who also discovered Juliana during this challenge. I'd never used her before, so I was surprised. That was new for me as well, and that was pretty cool to see. As far as the various areas that we had to gather points in, is there one particular fight, one particular achievement that you got through in 90 days where you just didn't expect to get as far as you did, and you're really proud of the progress there?
Question. Let me think here about like what dungeons really gave me trouble. I mean, Fire Knight is a really freaking hard dungeon. So anytime you can do Fire Knight, you're super stoked. So I think hitting 25, I felt really good about that. I was proud of that.
Can you show us your team?
Yeah, sure. I think what is it? Is this the team here for 25? Yeah, this is the team. So it's Duck, Coldheart, Allure.
Allure.
Again, I didn't have Allure towards the very end of the competition, so she only came in once I'd already hit, I think, 20. Or 20 was also hard because Allure is the wrong affinity, so that was like a really like scary battle. And to get Arbiter, you have to do it 10 times on auto. And both of my Armands and Allure, and I think I'd already reached 20, but then when I was trying to do it 10 times for auto, I was like, oh my god, two champions that are bad affinity for this stage, and I have to beat it 10 times in auto to get my Arbiter. So that was a really scary moment for me. But I would say Fire Knight was the one that I was most impressed by. And also just getting to like spider, like hard spider, and doing any of that. Like hard spider was tough because I felt like I couldn't get enough damage to push higher. Like I just could not get enough of a nuke off of maybe the Rathalos, and I didn't really have another great nuker. That was the one thing I didn't pull. Was if you look at my account, there's not really somebody else here who's like, yeah, you're gonna build them to nuke hard. Maybe Skull Crown, but the problem with her is it's just like really tough to keep her alive. And like one blast off of the spider, and then she was cooked. But definitely, like I would say Fire Knight is the one that I'm most proud of. Like hitting 25, getting to that level. Putting up, I think, the second or third fastest time in the competition was like, I was like, all right, cool, go me. Yeah,
that was a good job. I watched your live stream the other night, the last night of the competition. And first of all, let me say, if you haven't watched this man live stream, you should go do it. It's incredibly entertaining. You put on a fantastic live stream. I really had a lot of fun watching it. But I also, and I'll put a link to each of your channels in the description of this video, so make sure to check these two guys out. But the one thing I noticed is that you got every drop of value you could out of your Armands. Obviously, as another Lego, getting him onto your account, did you end up just trying him everywhere simply because you had, 3 legendaries and you may as well? Or did you kind of know going in that he was going to be incredibly valuable and that's why you chased him in the first place?
Oh, I knew he was going to be the key for my account. When I missed the Ancora fusion and I got to like 75 or 80 fragments, I didn't save for the Ancora fusion. I didn't talk about mistakes. I just did not approach the fusion correctly. I burned all my shards by the time I got in there, basically. So there was no way I was going to hit the shard events. And that proved to be my downfall. So when I missed Ancora, and then I saw that other people had actually completed the fusion, I was like, damn, I've really made a mistake here. This is going to come back to haunt me. And so when Armands came up and I saw his kit, I knew immediately how absurdly broken this champion was going to be on my main account. And I also knew that for free to play, he was going to be absurdly broken as well. Like, I think this champion is so ridiculously overpowered because he just makes every dungeon trivial. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, all the waves don't matter anymore. You think about like some of the hardest content in the game is the wave-based content. And like, yeah, you could get a seer and she helps. But the thing is, like, seer requires so much more setup to be good. Whereas Armands comes out of the gate and it doesn't matter what else you have on your team. If you have 10 minutes or 5 minutes, he will get it done. Like, he will get you to the boss. And then you can have any other team around him. It doesn't even matter. All the other 4 champions don't have to support him at all whatsoever. They can specifically be boss champions. But Armands is like, he's just busted. He's absurdly broken.
Yes.
Like, he should not be this strong. That's another video. But I knew I had to get Armands. I was like, if I don't get Armands on free to play, I'm not going to be able to push. And when I got him, sure enough, he allowed me to push every dungeon. Didn't matter what it was. Fire Knight, Spider, Dragon, all of it was now pushable because I could get through the waves. And I think for some of these dungeons, the boss is hard, but on some of them, especially early on in the game when you don't have great gear, like, the waves are harder. The waves are the real problem. Like, how do you get through the waves to even get to the boss? And he was the key. Like, he changed my account for sure.
Let's take a look at like maybe a couple of your teams. Let's take a look. I'm interested in your arena team because you actually hit platinum. I know you both hit platinum. And so I'm interested in what team you use. Now, obviously, did you get there before you got Armands, or did you get there after you got Armands?
I definitely got there after I got Armands. Arena was a really tough push up for me beforehand. Like, I'd hit gold 5 before Armands, but it was like, this is part of the putting in the hours. I mean, this is where I was not sleeping. I was grinding super hard to try to find these like 1-player teams. Because even now with Armands, you'll notice a lot of these players are level 100. I am not going to outspeed them. I know I'm not going to outspeed them. I'm not going to, risk the coin. I'm just going to refresh, and I'm going to pray to God that I get a really good, like, okay, here's a 1-player team. This is beatable. Is anybody else lower than 100? Yep, level 78. Look at the player power. Low. Yeah, I don't know about these two. So I just literally was refreshing every 15 minutes, every 15 minutes, over and over and over and over again. And I was able to get platinum like after one of the resets, like I think that Monday. I was able to do it once I had Armands. But I had hit gold 5 before Armands. I gotten close to platinum before Armands. Armands helped me get that one little bit further. But pretty much if it's like a team like this I would hit. You know what I mean? This is a non-speed lead team. So if it's not a speed lead, I will consider it, as long as it's not absurdly high player power or someone like an Elva that's going to cleanse off Armand's stuff. So the team that I would normally use would be Armands, Mordecai to empower the Rathalos's damage, and then usually either a Duck or a Vogoth, or sometimes an Arbiter once I got her, or a Kale. Like, those were the 4. I would switch between them. And that's kind of how it would go. So I would just put it on auto. I'd let Armands do his thing. He sucks out the stuff. He does what he does. Then Duck comes in, places decreased defense, whatever. And then you just, boom, light him up. Say goodnight, son. So yeah, it was a struggle though. It was
Yeah.
definitely a struggle.
Now, Krop, you got to platinum too. Did you do the same thing? You basically just worked the refresh and just really committed to the idea that trying to get those one-man defenses, or did you find some other way to progress there?
There is no other way.
There is no other way. Yeah. Yeah, that's basically it. I agree. I got to gold 5 after I got my deacon. Once I got my deacon, gold 5 was easy. It happened like the next day. So I went from like gold 2 to gold 5. Well, not the next day, but I started the climb the next day. It took me about 6 days, I think, to actually get there. But Rathalos is such a good nuker, and you and I each took Mordecai. So, you had the increased attack, you had the HP burns, it was easy to speed tune. So I didn't find it terribly difficult to get to gold 5 once I had my deacon.
I think that to get to gold 5, I think that some kind of point of when this changed, because I was stuck on gold 1 and 2 for some time.
Yeah.
So the point in time, it was the forge pass for the Rathalos set was finished. So I managed to forge some of those gear and gear Rathalos properly, more or less. And then he starts smacking hard. And then I managed to push from gold 2 to gold 5 like in 1 week. Just before that. So having good nuker will allow you to just break through those, defensive teams or one-man defenses very quickly, and then you are gold 5. And then this is like, farming one-man teams then.
Well, this is really interesting. So you also have the Slayer set on your Rathalos. Why don't we go check out Krops' account now? So you're also in the Slayer set. I stayed in the Lifesteal set. We'll take a look at my account last, I guess. But so Krop, why don't you take us through your roster here? First of all, who were the big really influential champions that you had on your roster?
I think we should start from the beginning here about my decisions, because this is very important. So I started with my starter champion, it was Atel. And then I was just trying to figure out who should be my starter epic, right? Because we had few available to do that we can choose. So I was trying to figure out, should I go with Mordecai because of his synergy with Rathalos, or should I go with Deacon? Because
that was the big question. Or Miscreated Monster, I think, was the other major option most people thought about.
Yeah, but I was mostly thinking about those two.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Their synergy with Atel.
Yeah.
Synergy with Atel is because 3 of them are from Sacred Order.
Exactly.
And it means, so when you're starting with your starter, for example, Sacred Order as Atel is, so your faction crypts will be open for Sacred Order for like 8 or 9 days.
Right.
So in that time, if you are able to build 2 champs to 60, then you can quickly move to like stage 13 and farm pretty good amount of materials for the forge.
Exactly.
And you can start getting a lot of perception. So what was my story? So when I was trying to figure out who should be my next epic, so I just start pulling random ancient shards.
Wait, who did you pick?
Yeah. So before that, I would start pulling shards, right?
Oh, I gotcha.
And I pulled Mordecai.
Okay.
So
okay.
You waited on your code for a couple of days.
Like one day,
because it's only 48 hours. You only get 48 hours, I think, right?
Yeah. This is the free to play knowledge that I did not have.
Yeah.
See, this is like big brain stuff that I would never have thought of, because nobody. I mean, Athel, I feel like everybody usually picks Kale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I picked Athel for the same exact reason, and I actually did a video on it.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I was like, I've done this before though. I always pick Deacon. And Deacon and Athel will clear the first 2 bosses with anybody else. You don't need anybody else. So you can get to stage 14 typically in your faction crypts. And for the first 7 days, like once you unlock faction crypts, they're open for 7 days. In your starter champion's faction. And so like Krop was saying, that's a beautiful way to start off with some good perception gear. But you added a wrinkle, Krop, here. You actually waited and you pulled some shards to see if you would get one of these 2 champions. and you were lucky enough to pull one, which allowed you to then take Deacon with the code, right? So now you had 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my starting 3 chance. So 3 of them were from Sacred Order, right? So Aetol, then I pulled Mordecai, and I use code for Deacon.
Perfect
so
arena team. That's a perfect arena team.
And then, in a few days we got Ratalos. So what else do you need?
Wow.
How fast did you get to? Then you got to gold like within days, because you have the speed aura, the drop defense, the increased turn meter. You had everything that you need. You had the increased attack and the HP burn with the Rathalos.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That depends how quickly you will get books for the Deacon. Because
That's
Deacon,
true.
if you don't have books, he's not working correctly.
Although for Arena, he still works just fine, right?
Yeah,
you just need to get him
Arena,
3-star ascended. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, but for all the dungeons, right? So to get something from dungeons, you need to book him. Yeah, but that was pretty fast, because you got arena speed lead, right? Decrease defense with turn meter manipulation, then increase attack, then nuke, right? But a few days later, we got Ratalos. So yeah, but it was tricky to build Ratalos because of the legendary books. But this is those champs were core of my team for a long time.
That's a great core.
Great example of knowing what you're doing, but then also getting lucky as well. Like combo of both, right? Like know what you're doing, had a strategy, which is so important, put in the time, of course, but then also pulling the Mordecai and having the big brain to wait to do that enabled so much progression. That's crazy. That's cool to see.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And this is
not the interesting, because this is not end of the story, because in the first week you're also getting your first sacred, probably I don't know, from dungeons or achieving or killing even campaign, right? And I pulled my first sacred, and just guess what I get. Drock.
Yeah,
wow.
I had no chance. He's so good. Like I wanted him so badly for this competition, for what he can do. You know, the ally protect, the provoke, the poisons for clan boss. Like, that's crazy, man. That's insane luck.
And to be fair, like you said, it's a combination of luck and strategy and knowing what you're doing, but also getting the most out of the champions that you have. Like what you basically started with, Krop, is you started with a full, complete team, right? You had all of the components that you needed to work in every dungeon, to work in arena, to work in clan boss. And like some of that's luck. Like I never really got a great clan boss champion at any point, really. I still don't think I have one. But all of the pieces that I got, I put in to one basic, this is the free-to-play mentality, Drock. It's like you get your 5, and then you build off of those 5. Like you just get your first dungeon team, and like those have to work as a unit in as many places as possible. Because you don't pull a ton of shards. You don't buy shards, right? You don't get that. Now for the challenge, it was different because we were pushing way, way, way harder than we normally would. But at the same time, that free-to-play mentality is literally like, can I build a team that I can put everywhere? The same 5 champions,
That was what I thought I was missing. I was missing that one crucial piece of like Vogoth is a good healer, but he's not a good protector. And that made like some of these dungeons pushing really tough on different points. Like that was the one part of the puzzle that I felt like I was missing the whole time. Like I had Rathalos for damage. I had Mordecai for increasing, an attack and all those kind of things, but I couldn't get that like really good top tier protector, and I wasn't willing to invest in Korgan. And everyone was telling me, "Oh, Korgan." Well, no Korgan for me.
But that's where Armand's steps into that role, because crowd control is protection, right? It's not increased defense, it's not a shield. But if the enemy can't go, then you are protecting your team.
That was the game changer. Like that was the thing. When I got him, then I suddenly was okay.
Yeah. All right, so Krop, anything else you want to show us with the roster, or should we move on to some of the dungeons and stuff like that?
So maybe let's take a while and talk about my queen, right?
This makes a lot more sense now. I was really curious to see this build. I think I'm covering let me duck out of the way so you can see stats or whatever, but I was really curious to see this build.
That's a nice
Yeah,
build.
so I had to build her a little bit differently. But so the idea is immortal, just to heal every time she takes turn, and relentless. So this chance to get an extra turn.
Yeah.
So while she's getting a turn, she's also healing. She's also resetting her cooldowns. And to make it work even better, I just pumped a lot of res here. So she's resistance is almost 300.
Oh yeah,
And
that's nice.
she's also fast. Yeah, so 200. How much? 13. Good enough. So she also got speed aura. She is just a god legendary for my account. So she's carrying me a lot in many dungeons. Also, I decided to use emergency heal.
Mm-hmm.
Very,
You got a
very
blood shield ring on her,
so,
or no?
No, I was not lucky to get blood shield rings from Night Refs. I was trying, but not lucky. So sometimes you get luck, sometimes not, right? But so to make it work, so maybe not. So the shield. So when we get the shield removed, so she will be healed, right?
Right.
And generally that's another part which is synergizing very well with her build, which I already did here.
That's a beautiful build.
I forgot she reset cooldowns in the revive. I knew you had to be resetting cooldowns, but I thought it was through the A1. You know what I mean? To get Rathalos to like keep like pumping out damage, but I completely forgot that she resets cooldowns on the revive. Now it makes it's so interesting to see this because I didn't even think about that. Like, oh, that's beautiful.
And what is even more powerful, so she's eating all the crowd control effects from the champs that got the most crit damage. So Rathalos was up and running all the time, so it's someone trying to fear him even in Hydra runs, right? So everything just Queen eat it. All those fears, all the stuff. So Rathalos was never feared.
And a great build. I think the Relentless was a really good call as well, just to get even more procs coming around, of those empowering skills. This is the classic, like, support carry. You put her everywhere in every team. You always try her first. And, like, getting damage is not that hard. You can always find a source of damage. But usually, and I think, Drock, I actually heard you talking about this either in the live stream, your live stream, or in the HH live stream, which is like, tankiness is a more effective, not more effective. It's a more like cost effective way to progress an account. Do you know what I mean? When you go with survivability rather than damage, you can always find a source of damage, but you can't always find the utility or the survivability you need if you don't have the right champion. And so you're talking about here, like if you think about all of the support champions here that you have actually built, you have not apothecary. I'm sorry. I do this all the time. You have arbiter. You have Ancora, supports. All right. Now we've got Mordecai, support. Skaramis, he's a protector. You've got Taragi, protector. You've got Ugo, support. Deacon, support. Like, you honestly, you have 3.5 damage dealers, maybe 4 damage dealers out of those 18 6-stars that you built. And everybody else is either utility or support. Because that's how you move an account, especially when you're free to play, is you need all those extras. You need the debuffs, you need the buffs, you need the utility, the turn meter increase, the turn meter decrease. You need all of those things, but you really only need like 2 damage dealers, and that's usually enough. But what was the area that you pushed the furthest?
I'm very proud, I would say, from Doom Tower start. So normal is complete, but this is the first rotation because in the previous I was struggling with Bomal, and I don't want to soak a lot of my resources to just deal with one boss here. This is subject for later, I'd say. But hard, in this rotation it was like a breeze, all right? So I went to stage 100. Here I'm blocked, because my resistance is not good enough, so I should probably have like 400 on my Ancora, and I don't have gear for that. But I cleared 90, stage 90, so here's Sacred Shard was That's a good reward.
Yeah.
From Doom Tower. In terms of dungeons, okay, so let me switch to dungeons now. My most interesting build, I think, is my Ice Golem. I know that a lot of players don't like this. I also.
Nobody likes it.
Don't like these dungeons.
It's the worst dungeon by
But
far. I
you
hate
need
this
to
dungeon.
deal with this somehow, right? So my composition was pretty, I would say, interesting, because here I'm using Swain. Probably you never build this champ. I first time did that because she's voice is harder to get. She's epic, but what she
Good debuffs
have is good debuffs, and this is 100% AOE decrease attack on return cooldown. No weak hits. That just
Yeah,
that's
no
beautiful.
brainer. Just what I need here on the Ice Golem, but looking on my roster, I don't have any options.
Yeah.
Because I don't have other champs that will do the same. And then I decided for that to use Armiger. And my Armiger is build is pretty interesting because I'm using him in both contents, in Doom Tower and also here. She got totally 0 accuracy. So this is pretty interesting build because I'm running him with Destroy for Scarab King, right? With some speed damage. And I'm using him in Ice Golem to just manually kill the ads for the boss.
So no turn meter control from Armiger for you.
No, totally no. So for turn meter control is Armas. So
you have Armans, you don't need
Armans,
it. Yeah.
Why I need turn meter control is such a small like Armiger, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a really good
I
idea.
just
Yeah.
decided
that's
to
smart.
use him for the just this purpose. So to deliver this guy till the end and just do 2 smacks on the minions to ensure that they will never give up. They will not wake up, right?
Yeah.
And that was his role here. And maybe do some damage to the boss with his max enemy hits.
That's an observation I heard you make a couple of times, like early on, which is like, you can't erase a mistake as a free-to-play player. Your mistakes live in your account but live in your psyche, because you can't say, oh, I messed that up, let me go buy a pack or buy something else to erase that mistake. And was that like one of the biggest adjustments for you, like trying the free-to-play account, is realizing like you had to be near perfect in order to get done what you wanted to get done?
Yeah, absolutely. I think back to when I started this competition and I made so many incredible mistakes that would have like really been difference makers for me later on in the competition. I opened the gem mine. That was a mistake. I spent gems initially because everyone was like running out of the gate, pushing really hard. I spent gems to refresh arena. That was a mistake. You know what I mean? To the 40 gem, not the 5 gem.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like to refresh coins or stuff like this. Yeah. That was a massive mistake. Like I didn't have masteries on my Rathalos until about a month and a half, 2 months into the competition. The Arbiter missions, not syncing those up correctly, that was a mistake. Like and they compound, and it gets harder and harder and harder to pull yourself out of. Screwing up the Ancora fusion by not saving my shards beforehand, massive mistake. That was by far the biggest mistake I made out of everything. And it's such a different mentality from when you are a spender, because if you make a mistake as a spender, whatever, who cares? You know what I mean? I can just go buy more energy or buy more gems. Like, it's annoying. It costs me money. But if I want to dig myself out of that hole, it's a simple click away. Well, as free to play, too damn bad. And like, even right now, I'm trying to go for this Eostrid fusion, and it's going to be tight. It is going to be so tight because I had to pull a couple more shards for the competition than maybe I wanted to. And now I'm like, riding the edge between, do I have enough energy to get all of the things done that I need to do for dungeon diver events and stuff like that, while also having enough shards and mystery shards to be able to pull those, and having enough silver to do artifact enhancement. It's like, it's just a different world when you're playing free to play. It is so much harder. And that's not even taking into account like the luck aspect of it that you can't control, but just like your decision making, you have to be thinking 4 steps ahead at all times. And when you make a mistake, you have to pray to God that it is not a mistake that you can't come back from, because a lot of times they are.
All right. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's one of the things that I like about free to play life, right? Like that challenge is it gets you motivated to do things. And every time you figure out a solution, it's almost like you pulled a void legendary on a shard. You get so excited about the progress that you make when you figure out a solution that maybe nobody's ever shown you before, nobody's ever seen, or even if you're just invested in a solution that you know will work, but it takes you an extra 2 or 3 weeks to get it done because you have to grind up all the components to it. You got to get the gear or the silver or the masteries or whatever. And then it finally all comes together and you knock on, and it's like, yeah, the return, the emotional return is so high as a free-to-play player when you actually make that progress. Okay, so now we're back to Big Drock. He is full resolution there. Yeah, you look beautiful, man.
Hey, thanks, great, man. You too.
Thanks. All right. So yeah, my account was a little bit different because we were talking about this before. First of all, I started with the Mordecai because I thought that would be good with Rathalos. And also, that's why I picked Athel as my starter, for the same reason that you did, because that Athel combined with Mordecai was going to help me push those early faction crypts. But I normally start with Deacon, and I definitely felt his absence. And luckily for me, I actually pulled him. I pulled him about 7 weeks in or 8 weeks into the competition, and I built him right away. And he became the centerpiece of all of my teams. And it's weird because you think, okay, well, Rathalos was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I do have him in a lifesteal set. And obviously, Nergigante Archer, everybody has pointed that one out. Like, I got super lucky to get her. But the most important champion on my team was Deacon, without a doubt. And the weird thing is, I love Deacon. I've been singing this guy's praises for years, but this convinced me that I think he's the best epic in the game. I think he's from day one. I would rather have Deacon than Geo. I think he empowers everybody else. And so what I found out was, like, he really made Rathalos even better. And Rathalos was so key to this account. So anyway, but let's move past the surprise for me. I have two really big surprises, actually. One is that Melga's a beast. She's absolutely fantastic. I didn't realize how strong Melga was going to be. I didn't book her until the last week. She was completely unbooked for like 85 days. And then I booked her the last week. But even unbooked, she's got this chance of removing a random debuff from an ally when she uses her A1. That's not bad. I can't tell you how many times she removed like a stun or a slow or a decreased defense or something that ended up playing. Her shield is based on her max HP, and she's got a good max HP pool. So this is a nice,
so good. Yeah, seeing that. Yeah, she is good. I saw her use her in a lot of teams, so that's incredible.
Yeah. And then her revive is 2 random allies. It's really bad on HP and turn meter. This is the one weakness in her kit. Like, if this were even like 40% turn meter, it would be so much different. But she does drop a shield on top of that for 30% of their max HP. So they actually come back with like 50% HP. And it's 2 allies, not 1, which is like different than, say, Rector Drath, who brings back 1 specific champion. But this was highly usable in a lot of places. And I actually, when I was manualing fights, I manualed around the idea that I wanted 2 champions dead before I revived. I wouldn't revive that first champion. I would wait for the second one to die if they were close, because it was a double revive. So she was a big surprise for me. I do have her in Miracle Heal now. I originally had her in Emergency Heal because she does have a Blood Shield ring on. And I have her in Guardian. I originally had her in Regeneration. But I moved her over to Guardian when I got a good set there, just to add more survivability to the team. You can see she's running super fast at 251. That's like, let me show the stats here. Way faster than I would normally run her, but that's just how it kind of worked out. And it actually works out great because having a shielder that's faster is good, while having a reviver that's slower is good, So it's like you use the shields, but decent stats there. Yeah, decent
She's really
stats.
well built. Is she your fastest champion?
No. Deacon is my fastest champion at 286.
Nice.
Yeah. And Deacon's got a great build too, 3.6k defense, 337 accuracy. So really nice there.
Oh, that's a really good. What is he in? That's a crazy build.
He's in 2 sets of speed and a set of perception.
Wow! Oh, you gotta see. You must. How was that? That accessory, that banner? Is that
The banner's good. The banner's good. Accuracy. You know, I didn't roll into speed, unfortunately. I didn't get any rolls into speed, but that's okay. Yeah, and then as far as the other surprise, I think, was Sanguinia. I didn't build her until late. You'll notice like some of these champions are missing pieces because in the last like 6 hours, I was just pulling pieces off of people to try to get progress in particular areas. So like Mordecai's banner and Sanguinia's banner, like I was swapping the banner between the two of them, you know, because or you know, I was taking Deacons off and putting it on Sanguinia. But Sanguinia actually is also fantastic. And I didn't 6-star. She was my last 6-star, I think. But this is actually a really, really strong kit that I was trying to get to, and I didn't get to until the very end. This A3 is fantastic. So basically what she does is she cleanses the entire team. And then when it's fully booked, I don't have it fully booked, you can see, it's a 100% chance of taking her debuffs and dropping them on the target. So when Dragon drops all of those poisons and weakens on you when you're in hard Dragon, you can just turn around and drop them right back on him.
Oh wow, yeah, that's okay. That makes so much sense.
Yeah,
So
that's the trick.
So
I just wondering how you passed me on to Dragonheart 8,
yeah.
right?
I got to Dragonheart 8, and she was the key to getting past 6. I got to 6, I got stuck, and then I built Sanguinia, and she got me 7 and 8. But yeah, so she was an absolutely huge surprise. And new to me, I'd never built her all the way before. I'd also never built Melgo all the way before. So I think those were the two big surprises for me. But obviously, you know, when you're looking at my roster, this is a perfect roster for Hydra. This is the most I've ever pushed Hydra early on. I planned Mordecai for Hydra because I knew Mordecai and Rathalos would potentially get me, you know, damage in Hydra. Once I got Deacon and it was on, and then I got Nair Gigante Archer, and I was like, oh, I'm definitely going towards Hydra. After that point, I had already committed to Hydra. I was doing all the things to get to Hydra. Then I pulled Ugo. And then like a week later, I pulled Shamail, and I was like, this is stupid. Yeah. This is literally like, talk about luck, Drock. My luck went towards one target. All of my luck pointed at one fight. And that's why I was able to top that, you know, leaderboard. I got 40 million on hard mode in Hydra, and I'll show you. Unfortunately, I don't have the key right now, but I got in here. So this is my team, and this is an insanely good team. The only thing that I'm lacking here, and this is actually I'm lacking in on my entire roster. I don't have a decrease attack.
Yeah. But but that's such a good, like, looking at that roster, you're absolutely right. It's like perfect for Hydra.
Yeah. So this was an insanely good roster for a Hydra. But I'll show you my my Archer just because people may be curious. Look at this build.
I am actually curious what this build is. I was curious.
So I got all of my Ascension luck happened on her pieces. So I got the extra speed on the speed boots, triple roll into HP percentage.
I put the triple roll.
Oh. Yeah, I got the double, or I got the defense percentage and defense percentage. I did use dust to get that.
How many rerolls? How many rerolls on that piece? I'm actually curious. With the dust.
With the dust, I think to get the defense percentage on this one was 1 reroll, and I think the speed on this one was like 2 rerolls or something. So it wasn't too bad, but I did use dust on both of these pieces. And then also, in addition, like if you look at her stats, I just got barely enough accuracy into her kit because I never got an accuracy banner. I only have 201 accuracy. But she has an accuracy buff on her A1, right? She gives herself additional accuracy. So you don't actually need quite as much accuracy because she gets a 50% increase accuracy buff. So she runs at like 300. I did put her in emergency heal with a blood shield ring, so she always got that little 3% heal because I didn't have any other, you know, regen on her. But her A3 places a hex, and then her passive is when she hits anybody with any target that has a hex, she heals all allies by 10% of their max HP. So this was the primary sustain for her. And I will say, as good as she was in Hydra, like I used her everywhere. And one of the things that I found extremely surprising, and this is something for anybody who has her, not a lot of people have her, but if you go into Doom Tower, all right, so I'm at floor 76 on hard. She soloed floor 50. Like, this is my team for floor 50 Scarab King. Everybody dies, and she solos all the way. In fact,
even with those low damage stats, that's interesting.
Yeah, in fact, you could run her like this. You could run her solo without the other champions. Obviously, I wanted the speed aura and whatever. She'll clear the waves just fine. Like, she'll get through these waves on her own, on full auto, without any trouble whatsoever. Right?
Huh.
Or I should say, at least that's what she's done before. So she has a provoke. She's got the stun. She's got the relentless to get extra turns. She's got the accuracy she needs. She's regenning by hitting anybody who has Hex. So as long as you have the accuracy and the defense, she's almost unkillable.
She's
like, look at this.
Mowing them down right now.
She's not even getting touched.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah. So, and
So
you know, honestly,
jealous.
like, not getting the Ancora, not getting the Armands. If I didn't have Nair Gigante Archer, I'm not sure I could have hung with you two guys. She was absolutely a huge part of my roster. But the other thing that I think you said earlier, Drock, is you also have to know how to use the champions and how to get the most out of them. And so, you know, I'm really proud of the stuff that I pulled off with Archer, because I have Archer on my main account and I've never done any of this stuff with her. You know what I mean? Like, when I got her.
Your build is interesting, because I wouldn't have thought to do it like where you're not building her for some level of damage, but it just doesn't matter because she has all this control, and it's more important that she keeps your team alive.
Right.
So this is really interesting for me to see this, because she's, even without like 100% crit rate or massive crit damage, because I thought you must have built her as a damage dealer. I was like, I'm sure he's got accuracy on there, of course, and whatever else, but I'm sure she's pumping out insane damage. But that's not the case. So this is interesting for me to see kind of what you actually did.
Yeah, she's got no damage really. I built her as tanky as I could possibly get her, and I didn't really care about anything else, because originally the idea was keep the team alive, like she can keep the team alive. But eventually it just became, well, let's see what she can do as a soloer. And honestly, she can solo a lot. And this is, you know, I'm not going to run that because it's actually like a 1400 turn battle.
I was wondering if you were able to hit the turn limit on this, because like that was one of the problems I had with Scarab, was I could solo it with Vogoth, but I would hit the turn limit.
Yeah,
I couldn't get through it without like doing a little bit more damage with a destroy set on somebody on a Cold Heart, usually in the beginning, and that meant switching off my better gear that I was using for Fire Knight in order to put that on, and that's 400,000 silver. Everything, you know, like, it's just brutal.
Well, that's the other thing, which is like I try to get damage out of her tank stats, like pushing her defense and pushing her speed and stuff like that. But also, I don't know if you guys did this. We didn't talk about this. I try to use area bonuses pretty much everywhere I could. I got into Live Arena and I pushed area bonuses. Obviously, all my Hydras are up at level 1, but also Doom Tower. Most of the Doom Towers are pushed. You know, so the extra accuracy, the extra speed, the extra ignored defense, all of those things, you know, were just ways to get like little bits of extra damage, because for that Scarab boss, I originally hit the turn limit. And then I pushed her defense like 300 more. I got, I dropped all these into Doom Tower. I hadn't done that yet. And that was just enough to clear it. And like, I cleared it in like 1,430 turns. So the next one, I probably won't have the damage to clear, you know, like the next floor, floor 90 or whatever, I won't have the damage to clear. But for the challenge, I didn't care. I just needed more floors, right?
How far did you get in Live Arena? Where did you, points wise? I'm curious where you ended up. I pushed it a little bit, but not that much. Okay, yeah. So you got about 100 points above me.
Yeah. So not too bad. I would have done this more if I had more time. I would have invested more into Live Arena. I pushed it decently hard, harder than I normally do, but the stats are so valuable early on. And I think this is something I would recommend to free-to-play players now, which is don't avoid Live Arena. Don't think you need crazy like champions to play here. My Live Arena team was very simple. I chose the same champions every time. It was Rathalos, Deacon, Mordecai, Archer. Those were my first 4. And then usually at the end, I would make the choice of either Ugo, Melga, Sanguinia, or Athel, just depending on what I was coming up against. You know, did I want a Reviver? Did I want a Cleanser? Did I want a second chance at damage? And almost always everybody banned Deacon. 99% of the time Deacon got banned. And I would just put Mordecai in as an accuracy lead. And if Ner Gigante got a turn, I won. Because she just crowd controlled that team forever, and then Rathalos blew everybody up. And so, you know, it's a good team, but at level 50, I started winning. And you can just get so many free stats from pushing Live Arena. You may as well. And then finally, let's look at the, we're talking about dungeons that you're really proud of. I was pretty proud of Shogun, Phantom Shoguns. I got to 14, which is stupid. And yeah, so this was, again, Sanguinia stepping in and really saving my team with that block debuffs and the cleanse. Without Sanguinia, this would not have happened. So the rest of the champions here are actually all replaceable. The only champion you can't really replace here is Sanguinia. You need a cleanser or a block debuffs, or preferably both, because she does both. And then I think, you know, as long as you have a strong nuker, you can see I did this without Mordecai. You don't really need the boosted damage. What you need here is, you know, you need to be able to get that that enfeeble debuff off of your team. And then finally, I would say Dragon is what I pushed the furthest. This was Dragon 8. And honestly, I think what I've got can push 10. So this was the team here. And again, Sanguinia is the MVP because she literally takes that weaken buff off of you and drops it back on the boss. Now on 8, she didn't do a great job because you know, she's weak affinity. But it was still enough for me to get past 8. And on 9, she's strong affinity, but I'm a little bit slow. I need about 6 or 8 more speed on my team in order to make this work, and then I think it would work. So yeah, that is my account. Now I wanted to talk to you guys and ask you, you know, I'm giving this account up immediately. Too much time investment. I've got to move on. I've got a baby coming in a few days. So I am sad to see it go. It was a really, really fun event, and big props to HH Gaming for putting this together. But it sounds like both of you will be playing this account moving forward. So Krop, let's actually start with you. This has become your main account, you said, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. So what are your plans for the future? Do you have plans you want to reveal? Anybody who you know, is watching, do you have content that you're going to be making around this account that you want to preview?
Yes, of course. So I already started series after the challenge. So first, a little bit to describe my plan. So I want to build it correctly to maybe show what's and present my thinking process, what I'm trying to achieve in the next phases. So for sure, I want to first deal with Ultra Nightmare clan boss. So now I'm focusing on build this team properly. So generally, I'm looking on the sources, so where the shards are coming from, where the books are coming from. So this is Demon Lord right, clan boss. Then next focus will be Doom Tower. Easy and hard to just clear it in every rotation.
Well, I'm definitely looking. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. On both of your accounts. Obviously, you pulled great legendaries. I pulled almost nothing in terms of legendaries. But so it'll be interesting to see how these accounts kind of progress. Because if you could make all of this progress, basically with epics and fusions, now you get to add in all of those great legendaries you've pulled. I'm really interested to see where you take this. So definitely, if you haven't already, go and subscribe to Krop's channel. He's going to be producing content on this account, so you can see the progress of this account moving forward, and that should be a lot of fun. Now, Drock, you have not been the free-to-play guy. You also pulled a ton of legendaries, and it sounds like you're going to continue progressing with this account. What's your plan in terms of, you know, how much time are you going to continue to invest in this free-to-play account?
Good question. You know, obviously, like what I'm known for mostly is arena and like high-end arena at that, like very, very different on my main channel. But I'm a little disillusioned with arena over the last several months. It just hasn't been as enjoyable. I think part of it is like just the frustration with polymorph has really caught up to me.
Yeah.
Where dealing with that for the last year and then getting the nerf and the nerf not being what it needed to be, you know, which of course
made it worse. It made it worse.
Yeah, it made it worse. It absolutely did. Like there's no, it's not a nerf. It ended up being a buff. They buffed polymorph. They haven't fixed it. So they've really sucked the fun out of probably my favorite game mode. And then with Armand's coming in, and like he's too powerful for Arena. There's really no other way to put it. He's too powerful, and at the high end, he's essentially necessitated that you switch everything on your roster to specifically counter him, because there are scenarios where if you don't ban a different champion, you're going to get worked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have to like rebuild your entire roster to potentially leave him in the team that you're facing, which is also absurd. Like if a champion's that broken that they require an entire roster rebuild to try and counter, and then part of that countering is also super RNG based, it's just not enjoyable. So the funny thing is that I've had a lot more fun playing this free to play account than I have playing my main in quite some time. And it's a bummer because I love Arena. It was what got me into a raid. It was what made me excited about the game. And I feel like there's still so much potential in that game mode if they actually just invest the time. But I don't think they're going to. And so I'm really curious to see what it's like to play free to play where I'm not obsessing over pushing Arena every 5 seconds, but I'm still trying to do some dailies and get some stuff done and try to balance that. So it's going to be an interesting kind of thing of like, yeah, I'm going to play this account. I'm going to see how it changes now that I'm working in legendary champions, since I did pull so many. And if that changes what I'm able to achieve, and of course it will over time, but the big bottleneck there is books.
Right.
Obviously you can't book legendaries at the same rate that you can epics or rares. And so it's going to take time for that to happen. But I'm still going to need to jump back on the main and do that kind of content, because that's what has driven my growth as a creator, and I can't negate that. So
sure,
it's a really weird kind of balancing act that's going to happen, but I'm curious to see what I can achieve on this account and where I can take it. And part of me is like, could I get this account to gold live arena? Could I get this account to gold 4 in a year? I don't think it's necessarily possible without insane luck like Boozers had, but I'm also like, could I do it? You know what I mean? So
that's a nice challenge. It's a new challenge. Yeah.
Well, so like, we'll see.
I have to say, I'm excited to see the content that both of you create with this new account, because even though I'm setting mine down for now, as a free to play content creator and a free to play player, it's always nice to have that community grow, discovering Krop and seeing what he was been able to do. I mean, just absolutely amazing achievements, and actually taught me a lot watching his account over the past 3 months about how to approach certain aspects in a new account. It's given me ideas for videos on how to help people out with free to play. And then Drock, obviously you coming from a very different place, having all that end game knowledge, having the vast like encyclopedic knowledge of all the champions, because that's the big difference I think for free to play players is you don't get access to as many champions, right? You don't get to play as many champions. And so, having you come and now apply some of that knowledge to this free to play account and to see what you could potentially achieve in the next, 6 months or year, I think that's really exciting. So I'm looking forward to the content from both of you guys in the future. And I got to say, as happy as I am to see this content or this challenge end, because battling with you two guys was exhausting. It was absolutely exhausting. I am so happy that it's over. I am kind of looking forward to next year. I will be excited to do it all again if we can do it all again next year, if HH hosts it again, because I learned so much from this series that I think next year could be even better, and that'll be really fun.
I respect that. I'll just say never again.
How about you, Krop? Would you go again? Would you do it again next year?
Only if we will be in one team.
There you go. There we go.
Be hilarious.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
Ultra team.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to say that, this is the podium here. Drock 3rd place. I finished in 2nd place. Krop in 1st place. Absolutely fantastic battling with both of you at the end here. But also, we can lay a claim now. We can lay a claim now on this video that we are the 3 best free-to-play content creators in Raid this year. Why not? Let's just say it, right?
Something that nobody that knows me would ever imagine in a million years. So I did it for you, my Kraken brethren. I showed those free-to-play players that even the whales know what they're doing. This is for you, boys.
And we'll say, and Krop and I'll say the same for the free-to-play community, right? This was what got me up. This is why I wanted to push so hard on here is to show free-to-play players that you can achieve amazing things in this game without spending money. You know, and I never take a knock at anybody who spends money in this game. You should game the way you want to game, but it's good to know you don't have to spend. And it can be really fun sometimes to not spend. It's a different experience. It's a different experience, but it can be just as legitimate and just as fun.
100% agree with that. And that is like so accurate. So true.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks to both of you for coming on the channel. This is Big Papa Drock. I will put a link to his channel right here. Make sure you go check him out. His live streams are super fun. I will also put a link to Krops' channel down here. Really good content on the free-to-play challenge. I highly recommend you go back, and if you enjoyed the free-to-play challenge, watch their content on the challenge and how they actually progressed through the account. Because as much as you saw today, there's a lot more that we didn't cover that those videos, those past videos will show you. So check that out. All right, that is it. Papa Drock, thanks so much.
Thank you, dude, and congratulations on the kid, man. That's exciting.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're really excited. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to do this video. It could be any minute now. So,
oh no, oh god.
Yeah, we're really close. We're really close. But thanks so much. And Krop, you too, buddy. Thanks so much for being on the channel.
Thank you very much. Much love.
Much love. All right, that is it for us. I have been Colred. That's Big Papa Drock. He is Kropchio, and we are out.